A series of murders during a 4-year period that were so gruesome, so senseless, they shocked police and prosecutors. The killer, a man who they call a monster who kills for fun, was caught and convicted.
Fry is clearly a murder, cold-blooded murder.
Those victims that needed help, he chose people that were defenseless.
New Mexico is known for a lot of things. The vast desert, the rich tapestry of folklore passed down from generations. What if I told you that some of the folklore isn't just myth? That just outside Farmington, people were playing vampire games, dabbling in the occult, and opening doors they didn't understand. This isn't a ghost story, it's real, and ended in one of the most brutal, horrifying crimes that the state has ever seen. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following contains material that may be disturbing to most audiences. Of all the crimes I've investigated, across states, across stories, this one is different. This is the most brutal, disgusting, and inhumane act I've ever seen. And it didn't happen in a distant city. It happened here, in my hometown. And yet, barely anyone knows the full truth. What you're about to see isn't just a story, it's a forgotten nightmare in Farmington, New Mexico's history. This is the devil in the desert. This is the story of Robert Fry. So the first stop that we have to go to is the Eclectic if we're going to investigate this thing. Before we head down to the Eclectic, I want to take a moment to talk about what really happened there. Because it wasn't just a shop. It became the scene of something almost beyond belief. Inside was a man named Joe Fleming. What happened next was pure savagery. He didn't just kill him, he obliterated him. Joe had worked there for only 2 weeks, and the worst part, Fry had no real motive. He claimed to have gone there just to talk, but what he did was cold, calculated, and vicious. Some say he was playing games tied to a cult. Others say he was feeding off the violence like it was instinct. The Eclectic has since changed hands, but the energy of that place, the story embedded in those walls, has never fully confronted. That's why I'm going down there.
So I'm actually approaching the Eclectic where that terrible incident, November 28, 1996 happened. And if you look behind me, it's right here. 2 people were slain, and it's been taken over now. It's by new management, obviously, but here's where it happened. Right behind me. This is the location. It's pretty crazy. And right, see if I can get a better shot. So this would be the side of the Eclectic back in '96 where the murders happened.
It's Thanksgiving night, 1996. Downtown Farmington is mostly quiet. Just a few cars pass along Main Street, their headlights brushing the storefronts. Tucked 1 block away, on North Allen Avenue, sits a shop. A shop called the Eclectic. Small, dimly lit, and almost invisible from the main street. It's a place for incense, posters, and maybe a little rebellion. Inside, 18-year-old Matthew Trecker and 25-year-old Joseph Fleming are working the late shift. The Eclectic is a familiar to them, a hangout spot, a job, a little sanctuary from the outside world. Just after midnight, the door opens. Robert Fry walks in.
No. You ready for this shit?
He's known here, friendly enough, someone you wouldn't be afraid of. Not yet. But Fry isn't here to browse, and what happens next happens fast. He stabs Matthew Trecker first. The wounds are deep, deliberate, multiple strikes to the chest. It's personal, brutal. 1 wound punctures the heart. As Matthew collapses, Joseph Fleming rushes in. Maybe he tries to intervene, maybe he freezes. But Fry turns the blade on him. Joseph is slashed and stabbed, throat cut. He's found later in the back room. It's almost like he ran or was dragged. And then nothing. Fry doesn't steal anything. No money's missing. No drugs. He doesn't clean up. He simply takes the Bowie knife and walks out, leaving behind 2 dead young men, a wrecked store, and a quiet street in Farmington. By the time police arrive, it's too late. The blood is drying. The weapon is gone. No one saw a thing. No fingerprints, just footprints in the blood, size 10.5.
It was locked from the inside?
And for nearly a decade, that's all they had. It would take years, another murder, and a witness brave enough to speak for the truth to claw its way out of that little shop on Allen Avenue.
All right, we made it here to Green Lawn, and next part's just finding it. It's always the hardest, but we'll get there. Bro, with the story that we're covering and the murder of crows behind me. 1, 2, 3. And they won't leave me alone. So we found one, at least one of them. Hold on. This is gonna be Matthew Trecker. He was murdered in cold blood by an evil man. And I wanted to come out and pay my respects to this young man because he was taken in the prime of his life by a significantly evil individual. And obviously you can see people still, you know, he was a hobbyist. He liked to hang out at the hobby store where they had comics and posters and things of that nature. And for somebody to just come in and commit the crimes they committed in such a sick way, I wanted to come out here and pay my respects to Matthew Trecker. I want to hopefully find Joseph Fleming if I can, but at least we have Matthew here. Rest in peace, man. So on that fateful night at the Eclectic, Robert Fry came in and murdered 2 young, innocent men for no reason. This would be the start of his murdering spree. I can't put emphasis on how disgusted this story makes me. You know, as I sit here and I hear the children play in the background, and I hear the cars pass by, and how most people's lives are just moving on. I see a Code Talker memorial. There's a Code Talker right here. I'm going to get more information on that and figure it out. But down below me here, this is what's left after somebody committed that crime. Headstone. Thank you, Mr. Fleming, Sergeant First Class, for serving my country. And I wish you would have. I wish life would not have done what it had done to you. This is Joseph Aaron Fleming. He was Sergeant First Class, U.S. Army, 24 years old. He was murdered in cold blood by the same man as Mr. Trecker. This has been possibly one of the most difficult documentary films I've ever done, because of the fact of the graphic nature in which
their lives were taken far too early by somebody that I can't even call a criminal, I can't call a felon, I can only describe as evil. It makes you wonder, about good and bad and why people do what they do. It's quite sad. I mean, look, you can see the bucket splashing, the kids playing in the water, and then the victim of a vicious murder at the Eclectic that night. Rest in peace. So as we wrap up the end of this tragedy, part of the series, the story doesn't end. It gets worse. That's where we'll be going next. This is the story of Donald Tsosie. The date, April 1998. Spring in the high desert of San Juan County is a strange mix of beauty and desolation. The wind howls across empty roads. And in the distance, miles from the reservation boundary, lies a scar in the earth. Head Canyon. This is where Robert Fry left his second victim. This is where Donald Tsosie died. But who was Donald Tsosie? Sosce was a 41-year-old Navajo man, gentle, quiet, developmentally disabled. He lived in Ganado, Arizona, was often seen hitchhiking the highways between Gallup and Shiprock. He was the kind of man who trusted too easily. On this day, Fry and his accomplice, Leslie Ng, spotted Sosce walking along the road. There is no reason to stop, but Fry saw an opportunity, and with the voice thick with cruelty, he said,
"An Indian, we got one."
"We spotted an Indian, let's do it." They drove him far out, beyond the canyons, beyond help. Then they stopped, and it began. According to Ng's later confession, Fry pulled Sosce from the car. There was no warning, no conversation. He picked up a shovel, one they brought for this purpose, and began beating him. Sosce begged, cried, tried to crawl away, fought back, but Fry kept swinging. When the beating stopped, Sosce was still alive. That's when they dragged him, barely breathing still, to the canyon's edge and simply pushed him off. He fell about 150 feet from the canyon head. His body broke on the rocks below.
You're a long way from the reservation, friend.
Yeah, maybe you got lost. He ain't even got no fucking money.
Fry and Ng didn't look back. They drove off, laughing, proud. To them, it was entertainment. Sosce's body was found by a hiker on April 1st. The trauma was extreme. Blunt force trauma. Head wounds from sticks that they stabbed into him. Fractured ribs. A fractured pelvis from the fall. But no one knew who killed him. Again, there were no fingerprints. Again, there was no DNA. And again, there were no witnesses. It became another cold case. Another Native American man murdered and forgotten by the system. Donald Tsosie was not disposable. He is not forgotten. In this canyon, once silent, still echoes with the violence that happened here.
This is 911. What is your emergency?
Gotta love downtown Farmington. Ha!
By June of 2000, Robert Fry had already killed at least 2 people, maybe more. He was still walking free, still drinking, still smiling, still playing the role of small town nobody. But his next victim would finally bring the spree to light. Her name was Betty Lee. Who was Betty Lee? Betty was a 36-year-old, a Navajo mother of 5, a sister, a friend, someone trying to hold her life together in a world that often left Native women behind. On the night of June 9th, 2000, Betty was crying at a payphone outside a Shiprock convenience store. Her ride had fallen through. She was stranded, alone.
You want a ride?
That's when Robert Fry and Leslie Ng pulled up. The abduction. According to Ng, Fry looked at her and said, "I hate to see a woman cry." They offered Betty a ride. She accepted. She had no idea who she was getting in the car with. They didn't drive her home. They took her out to an isolated stretch of dirt road, off the grid, off the record. A place I know well, in Kirtland, New Mexico, next to the Twin Mounds. A place I've walked by, a place I've been. Ng said Betty started to cry again. That's when Fry snapped. He yanked her from the car by her hair. He tried to sexually assault her. He stabbed her in the chest with the knife they had stolen from the Eclectic. She tried to run. She pulled the knife out of her chest and continued on. Fry chased her down. Her heart had been pierced. He grabbed his sledgehammer from the trunk and crushed her skull. He left her lying there like garbage. Ng said he could still hear Betty gurgling, dying, begging. When Fry was done, he climbed back in his car, calm, silent, covered in blood. The evidence that broke the case. This time Fry got sloppy. Blood on his boots, DNA on his shirt, Betty's blood on the sledgehammer. Police found a flashlight with her blood in the car. Shoe prints matched Fry's size, 10.5 boots. His black t-shirt was stained. Ng's shoes were splattered. He didn't clean a thing.
Leslie Ng was interrogated by detectives.
There was a body first struck her hair and pulled her out. She yelled, "Why me? Why are you doing this to me? What are you?"
Just please leave me alone.
You know what happens now, bitch.
This time Fry couldn't hide. Police arrested him within 48 hours. Ng cracked almost immediately. He told them everything about Betty, about Sosce, about the blood. Betty Lee's death finally forced the system to pay attention because she was a Navajo, because she was a woman, because she was brutally murdered in a way that the law could no longer ignore. Fry would later be tried and sentenced to death for Betty's murder. That sentence would be overturned in 2019, but he will never leave prison again. Betty's name, once a missing person report, is now remembered as the victim who brought a serial killer into the light. Betty was not just a victim, she was a mother, a sister, a human being. Her murder wasn't just a tragedy in a small town. It was a turning point in my town. It was the moment the silence broke in Farmington, New Mexico. By the time Robert Fry was sentenced to death, 4 names were carved into the official record: Matthew Trecker, Joseph Fleming, Donald Tsosie, and Betty Lee. But unofficially, quietly, there were more. In 2005, a San Juan County investigator said what many had already feared. that Fry had been, quote, acquainted with at least 2 other missing people in the county, unquote, and that he, quote, could not be ruled out as a suspect in those disappearances. None of those cases led to charges, but the stories, those haven't gone away. Pernell Tsosie was a Navajo man from Shiprock. He was soft-spoken, known in town, not the kind of person to cause trouble. Sometime in the late 1990s, he vanished. No body was found. No suspects were named. His family insisted Pernell didn't just walk away. He didn't disappear by choice. He was last seen walking alone near the same parts of town Fry frequented. There were rumors Fry had made comments about him. There was no evidence, just a silence that felt too familiar. Then there was the woman found near the Animas River in 1997. She was never identified. Her body was badly decomposed. There were no signs of robbery, no signs of it, just left in the dirt by the water, like someone who had been killed and walked away from. Another man, still unnamed, was found stabbed multiple times in an alleyway behind downtown Farmington. This was also in the 1990s. The details were disturbingly close to the Eclectic murders. Multiple wounds, no stolen property, no fight, just another body no one could explain. And Fry? He was known to be drinking in that area almost every day. Drinking, wandering, looking. But looking for what? What links these cases isn't just proximity or timing. It's the type of victims. Poor, native, transient, invisible to most. It's the method. Overkill. Personal without clear motive. It's the pattern. Murder for power, not profit. There were never any charges. The files were never closed. The families were never satisfied. And though Fry sits behind bars now serving life upon life, his true count may never be known. The number may not be 4. It's just the number we can prove. I'm not Native American. I didn't grow up in that world. But I live here, in the Four Corners. And I've seen and heard enough to know something isn't right. For decades, Native Americans in this region, Farmington included, have faced racism that goes way beyond ignorance. There's a term that used to get thrown around, rolling. It meant beating or robbing a Native person for fun. That actually happened, right here. And even if that exact thing isn't happening right now, the impact never really went away. This is a community that's been hurt, overlooked, and dismissed for far too often. Incidents involving racism and violence still occur, and when Native people go missing, the attention they receive, or don't receive, says everything. This isn't about me telling you what to believe. This is about asking questions. Why does this keep happening? Why does it get so quiet when it does happen to them? You don't have to be Native to care. You just have to be human. And if this makes you uncomfortable, good. It means that my documentary is working, and it means that you're listening. This project is my attempt to understand and to make sure that at the very least, silence isn't the last word.